Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to identify your ideal client. Before you build your funnel and promote your service, it's critical that you know exactly who you're building it for. And here's what you're going to learn in this video. One, you're going to learn why you need to be extremely specific. And second of all, you're going to learn how to identify your ideal client. I'm going to give you 4 strategies and tips that will help you identify a client who you love to work with, who can afford to pay you, and who values your services. So the first thing is why do you need to be specific? It's good for your bottom line. All right, so online advertising will become a lot cheaper. If you're doing pay-per-click, you're going to know exactly who to target, and if you want to put a ad up on a niche blog or something like that, well, that's much cheaper than putting an ad up on a big blog like Mashable. The more niche the blog, generally, the cheaper the ads. So be very specific so you know exactly who to target and where to target them if you want to do online advertising. You're going to increase your conversions. Each market has a unique language. SaaS companies look for users, accountants look for clients, dentists look for patients, and e-commerce stores look for customers. These are subtle differences, but if you get these subtle differences wrong, then your client is going to think that you don't know what you're talking about, and they're not going to trust you. You're also going to be able to charge more for your services. Let me ask you a question. Who makes more money, the general physician or the heart surgeon? It's the heart surgeon. Even though the general physician knows a little bit about the entire body, the heart surgeon only knows the heart, and they only do one thing, heart surgery. And because they're experts in only this one area, they're able to charge a premium for their services. So being specific is also going to save you a lot of time. You'll know exactly which networking events to attend, you're going to know exactly which blogs to write for, and you're going to know instantly the difference between a good prospect and a bad one. Have you ever sat in a prospect meeting and about 2 hours into the meeting you realize that this prospect is just going to be a crappy client if he decides to be a client at all, and you've just wasted an entire afternoon? Well, if you are specific, you will know within 5 minutes whether this person is going to be a good prospect or not, and whether you should continue the conversation. So let's talk about 4 ways to find your ideal client. The first way is what I call the perfect fit chart, and it's essentially this. It's a horizontal line with 4 vertical lines going awful fit, bad fit, good fit, and perfect fit. And I usually draw this out on a whiteboard or something like that, so that way I have some space underneath. And here's what happens. After you draw this chart on your whiteboard, what you want to do is create a client profile of all the clients you worked with over the last year or two. And the client profile is going to look something like this on an index card or a sticky note or something like that. And you're going to want to put the name of the client, you're going to want to describe the client, describe the type of work you did, what you hated, and what you liked. So I'll get a little bit more into each of these categories right now. So the name of the client is what was the company's name and who is the contact person within that company that you worked with. Now you're going to describe the client. So some of the things that you're going to want to take into consideration is the type of industry they were in. Were they in IT services? Were they software? Were they consumer? Things like that. The number of employees they had. The revenue that they were doing. If you don't know the exact revenue, here's what I like to do. I like to take the number of employees and multiply that by $100,000. And that gives you some idea of what type of revenue they're doing. It's not an exact art, or it's not an exact science or anything like that, but it'll give you a ballpark figure. So for instance, a company with 50 employees, I could assume they're doing at least $5 million in revenue. What was the title of your primary contact? Were they the CEO, a marketing manager, the chief marketing officer, so on and so forth? Describe the client's customers. Were they global customers? Were they local? Were they a B2B company, or were they a B2C company? And what was the lifetime value of the client? How much money did you make working with them the entire time they were a client of yours? What type of work did you do for the client? Was it website design, Facebook page, lead gen services, create content, search engine optimization, coaching, things along those lines? And was the work successful? Why or why not? Be honest with yourself. I know it could be hard to admit that you did a bad job for a client, but try to be as honest as you can and try to figure out exactly why or why not that work was successful or not. So what did you like about the client? And list everything, including the size of the company. Were they just the right fit? Did you like the contact person? Did you like that were a small business or a big business? Did you have a good relationship with the contact person and with the company as a whole? And so list everything that you hate, including, again, the size. Were they too big for you? Were they too small for you? Did you not like the contact person for any reason whatsoever? Whether it was you didn't like working with the CEO of the company or you didn't like working with a manager in the company. Did they make enough money to pay you, or were they too big in terms of they just completely overwhelmed you in terms of revenue? And did you have a good relationship with the company? I found that I was happiest working with clients that I really liked. And I know that seems very obvious, but far too often we take on clients just because, and we really hate working with them and they make our lives miserable. So, did you like that type of client and did you have a good relationship with them? Right now, I'm going to give you some examples of awful fit, bad fit, good fit, and perfect fit clients that I had, okay? And I'm not going to name names, so I'm going to exclude that. But an awful fit client description for me was one of my clients was a startup that was trying to bring actors and directors together. There were three people at the company who had a small amount of seed funding. So what did I like? Well, the people were nice. All three guys who were working there were really, really delightful. Very nice, very accommodating. What did I hate? Well, I hated the industry. They were a B2C company in the entertainment industry, and I just knew nothing about that space. So that made them a really, really awful fit for me. I couldn't do a good job for them. And second of all, they didn't have any money because they were a startup. And I realized right then and there, I don't want to work with startups. So who was a bad fit for me? Another client that I had was a one-man consulting show looking to create content to attract more clients. He was a management consultant for mid-sized businesses. And what did I like? Well, I like the fact that he was a B2B company because I understand the B2B sales process a lot better than the B2C sales process. And I really liked the type of work that we were doing, guest posting. I knew how to do that. It really fit into my wheelhouse. So what did I hate? Well, he was only a one-man show, which means he had no time and very little money. I would send a guest post to him to look at. It would take him weeks to get it back to me, and in the end, he really couldn't pay me everything that I was worth. So I worked with him for a little while, but because he was a bad fit, I decided to let him go. So a good fit client for me was a publicly traded enterprise software company with over $1 billion in revenue, and we were tasked to generate and nurture leads and build their brand online. What did I like? They were able to pay a ton of money. There was no budget too big for them. That was really cool. What did I hate though? They were extremely bureaucratic. Everything took weeks to make a decision. We would present a strategy and it would just take so long for them to get back to us and say, yes, go ahead with it. And the other thing was everything had to go through a legal team. I mean, we would submit a guest post and the legal team would get it. They would completely tear it up, carve it out. They would give it back to us totally watered down, and the post would suck so bad I was almost embarrassed to actually submit it to the publication. So I really honestly hated that. And yes, they were a good fit, and yes, I liked working with them. They were nice people. And yes, they were able to pay a lot of money for us to do this work, but they were not the perfect fit for us because of the bureaucracy and the legal team. So who was the perfect fit for us? We worked with a company that was a mid-sized AV design and installation firm with 70 employees doing about $15 million in revenue, and we were tasked to generate leads for them. So what did I like? I was able to work directly with the president of the company, and that means a whole lot because he was the only one who could hire us, and he was the only one who could fire us. So if we did a good job and he liked us, we were almost guaranteed to continue to work with him every month. I also like that they were able to pay us reasonable rates. They weren't a small company by any means. $15 million is a lot of freaking money. By the time we were done working with them, they were doing about $25 million. So they weren't a billion-dollar company, but they were able to pay us quite a bit of money. So the client also felt like our friend. His name is Rob Gilfillan. He's a great guy. We still keep in touch to this day. I'm constantly bouncing ideas off of him. He's bouncing ideas off of me. Even though we no longer are working for him, he no longer pays us to do work, we still keep in touch. And that's really cool. When the client feels like your friend, it makes things a lot easier. So what did I hate? I actually didn't hate anything about working with these guys, which is why they were a perfect fit. This is really, really rare that you hate nothing about them, but it's very rare that you find a perfect fit company. So those are 4 types of clients: one in the bad fit, one in the awful fit, one in the perfect fit, and one in the good fit. And what you want to do now is create profiles just like that for every client that you worked with over the last 2 years. And you could write them on an index card or a sticky note or something like that. And then you insert those sticky notes and index cards into your client chart on your whiteboard. And so it would look a little bit like this. The video company for us would be in the awful fit, the consultant would be in the bad fit, the public company in the good fit, and the AV company in the perfect fit. So that's the first way to identify your ideal client. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is the most preferred way to do so. I'm going to show you 3 other strategies to find your ideal client, but to be perfectly honest with you, none of them are as good as this strategy. This is by far the best. But the next strategy is identifying who you have easy access to. First, you want to identify potential customers you have easy access to. So check some networking events in your area on meetup.com, on LinkedIn, in your local newspaper, things like that, and make sure that they aren't small business or general business events. The people who pay the most money for marketing services typically don't attend small business and general business events. They typically attend industry specific events. So some events that I would go to are New Jersey Technology Council, because the CEOs of IT service companies went there. Design on the Delaware, which is where a bunch of designers, IT service guys, architects, they all went to network about buildings and things like that within the Delaware Valley, which is where I live. And so I would go there and I would network with the IT service guys. And again, the Philadelphia Technology Council, I live near Philadelphia, so this was just another extension of a technology networking event. Also check LinkedIn. Look in your Rolodex in LinkedIn to see who you have access to, who might be a good fit for you. Identify people who you would like to work with and companies that you would like to work with there. And then finally, if you've been doing business for any length of time, you probably have relationship with companies who are not clients. So look at those companies, see how you can help them, see if you would like working with them, things along those lines. And identify those relationships, because when you have easy access to people, it makes life so much easier. So who else do you have easy access to? Do you have easy access to any influencers? So people like popular bloggers. As long as I have a connection at a popular blog in the marketing space, such as ProBlogger, Copyblogger, or my friend John's blog, Boost Blog Traffic, I know I could always go find a client. That's not going to be hard. I simply write a guest post, send them to a landing page, and voila, I have a new client. So do you have access to any popular bloggers in a specific space? And if so, you might want to start reaching out to them. Popular Twitter accounts, it kind of works the same way. Do you have any access to a popular Twitter account, to somebody who can tweet you about your work and about your information and things like that? People who own LinkedIn groups are always seen as high value individuals. And if you get a recommendation from a owner of a LinkedIn group, that recommendation goes a long way to securing a new client. The same is true with people who run offline events and industry trade shows. They're all seen as high value individuals, and those recommendations go a long way. Do you have any access to venture capital firms? When a venture capital firm tells their portfolio company to hire somebody, that portfolio company pretty much always hires that somebody without question. So I'm going to tell you two quick stories to show you how you can make this easier on yourself. I read the first story on Neil Patel's blog, and he was talking about how he first got clients for his SEO service company. What he did was he petitioned Michael Arrington, and he just approached them and said, I want to get more traffic for TechCrunch using my SEO services. Michael Arrington said, no way. Neil Patel said, I'll do it for free. Then Michael Arrington said, what's the catch? And Neil said, basically, if we are able to get you more traffic, and if we're successful, I want you to tell all the venture capitalists that you know. So Michael Arrington said, yeah, sure. So long story short, Neil Patel applied his SEO tactics. He got TechCrunch a whole lot more traffic. And Michael Arrington told all the venture capitalists that he knew that, hey, your portfolio companies should really hire Neil. Well, guess what? One by one, those companies started hiring Neil's SEO company, and he started getting clients and starting signing up clients. So he was able to find somebody who he had access to, leverage that relationship, and get clients. Now, on the flip side, my one student, Pat, she wanted to work with software as a service companies and create explainer videos for them. The problem was she didn't know the CEO of a single software as a service company. It became extremely hard for her to do work and to find clients. It wasn't until we sort of identified who she had access to and tailor her services around that she was able to start to get successful and make more money. So again, make it as easy as possible on yourself. Find out who you have access to. Another question that you might want to ask yourself is the company that you're targeting, or are the companies that you're targeting well networked? So for instance, the AV company that we were working with knew everyone in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, who was in the building ecosystem. Everybody who was building everyone who was building buildings, they knew. Big buildings, skyscrapers, doing building renovations, things like that, they knew them. So we were introduced to IT program managers. We were introduced to an architecture firm, office supplier, telephony and networking company, all these types of businesses. And we worked with the IT program managers and the telephony company because they were right within our wheelhouse. We didn't work with the architecture firm or the office supplier. But long story short is, who are your ideal clients networked with? Or who are the current clients that you have, who is in their network or who is in their ecosystem? So start to explore those relationships and see who you can get introduced to. Finally, you want to take inventory of your strengths. Your strengths must fit client values. For instance, if your expertise is Facebook marketing, you'll have a tough time selling that service to high-end IT service companies, because they just don't see the potential value in Facebook. No matter how much you try to sell them, you're never going to reach out to those types of clients. What you have to do instead is say, who can potentially see the benefit of Facebook marketing, and go after those clients. So I just want to reiterate, be specific. I mentioned this plenty before in this video, but it's definitely worth repeating. And I just want to show you some examples of specific ideal client profiles. One of them, the one that I used, was high-end IT companies with a long sales cycle doing $10 million to $100 million in revenue. I knew exactly where the CEO of that company was at all times, what networking event they were attending, what industry trade show they were attending, what blogs they read. I knew exactly what problems they needed to have solved. I knew exactly what their objections were. So getting introduced to them, exposing my agency to them was quite easy once I was that specific. Another specific client profile is Fortune 500 consumer brands. Right? There's only about 250 of them, because you have to figure maybe the other 250 are business brands. But the Fortune 500 consumer brands, very specific niche. Spa owners looking to add a new location. Actually, I would probably even break this down even further and make it more specific. Something like female spa owners looking to add a new urban location. Again, very specific. I know exactly where to find that person. Silicon Valley based software companies. I'm getting specific here in terms of location because I know exactly where those Silicon Valley based software companies are located, right? Silicon Valley. Alright, so that's all I have for you in this video. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to build services for your very specific ideal client. So I look forward to seeing you in that video, and we'll get to it.